The appraiser's hands trembled as he set down the birdhouse. "Mrs. Reeves, I need you to sit down. This isn't wood. It's gold. 18th century French gold. And unless I'm mistaken, those aren't glass beads, they're uncut diamonds." But that was 4 days ago. 6 days earlier, Lauren Reeves stood in the front yard of the house she'd lived in for 8 years, watching two men in orange vests nail a foreclosure notice to her door. Her daughter Sadie pressed against her leg, small and quiet. 9 years old. Too young to understand that the bank owned their home now, that 3 months of missed mortgage payments had finally caught up. "Ma'am, you have 14 days to vacate," one of the men said, not unkindly. He'd probably done this 100 times. "After that, we changed the locks." Lauren nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. She'd already cried, at 3 a.m., alone in the bathroom, after the foreclosure letter arrived. No tears left now, just the hollow weight of failure. The men left. Lauren stood there as the afternoon sun slanted through the oak trees, illuminating the yard she'd mowed every Saturday, the garden she'd planted, the birdhouses. God, the birdhouses. Her ex-husband's mother, Vivian, had died 18 months ago. At the estate division, Vivian's son from her first marriage, Marcus, always dressed like a cologne ad, had taken the antique furniture. His sister claimed the jewelry, the china, the Persian rugs. They'd stood in Vivian's formal living room, dividing up assets like sharks. "And what about Lauren?" Vivian's lawyer had asked. Mrs. Reeves specified. Marcus waved dismissively. "The yard ornaments. The birdhouses. Whatever. She can have those." His sister had actually laughed. "Oh, perfect. The broke ex-wife gets the lawn junk. How fitting." So Lauren had loaded 23 birdhouses into her Honda. Elaborate Victorian designs, rustic log cabin styles, miniature churches with tiny steeples. Vivian had collected them for decades, scattered them across her sprawling property. They were whimsical, charming, worthless. Lauren had arranged them throughout her own yard, hanging them from trees, mounting them on posts. They made Sadie smile. That was enough. Now she walked through the yard, cataloging what she'd have to leave behind. The swing set she'd bought at a garage sale. The raised garden beds she'd built from scrap lumber. The birdhouses. Sadie tugged her sleeve. "Mom, can we take the birdhouses to the new place?" "Baby, we don't have a new place yet." They had 14 days and $327 in checking. Lauren worked data entry from home. $15 an hour, flexible schedule. Perfect when she'd been married and sharing expenses. Impossible now. She'd applied for 3 full-time jobs. No responses. Her sister had a fold-out couch in Cincinnati. "You can crash here temporarily," she'd said, voice tight with the obligation. "But I don't have room for all your stuff." Lauren looked at Sadie. "Sure, honey. We'll take some of them." That afternoon, Lauren started taking down birdhouses. She'd pack what she could fit in the Honda, donate the rest. She reached for a particularly ornate one, cream-colored, with tiny columns and a pitched roof like a miniature Greek temple. It had always been her favorite. It wouldn't budge. She pulled harder. The mounting bracket groaned. The whole thing was heavier than she remembered. Had water gotten inside? She unhooked it from the post and nearly dropped it. The weight was startling, solid, like lifting a car battery. "Mom, why is this birdhouse so heavy?" Sadie asked. "Good question." Lauren set it on the porch and examined it more closely. The cream color wasn't paint. It was some kind of coating, thick and uneven, like someone had plastered it. She picked at the edge with her fingernail. The coating flaked away. Underneath, something gleamed. Yellow. Metallic. Not brass or copper. Something brighter. Lauren's heart started pounding. She grabbed a screwdriver from the garage and carefully chipped more coating away. The yellow surface underneath had a soft luster. Free of tarnish. The weight, the color, the way it didn't corrode. No. Impossible. She pulled down another birdhouse, a rustic log cabin design. Same impossible weight. She scraped the weathered wood finish. More yellow gleam underneath. Her hands shook as she brought both inside and searched online. How to test if something is gold at home. 20 minutes later, she performed every home test she could find. The vinegar test. The magnet test. The ceramic scratch test. Every result pointed the same direction. Gold. She sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by birdhouses, trying to breathe. It couldn't be real. People didn't coat gold in plaster and hang it in yards. That was insane. But Vivian had been wealthy, genuinely wealthy, from old money that predated computers and records. She traveled constantly, collected obsessively, trusted no one. And she'd left the birdhouses to Lauren. Only Lauren. Don't let Marcus have them. Promise me. Vivian had whispered that 2 days before she died, her hand gripping Lauren's. Lauren had thought she meant sentimentally. A final slight against the son who'd stuck her in a nursing home. But what if she'd meant literally? Lauren pulled out her phone and searched gold appraisers near me. The first result was Hendricks Estate Valuations, 15 miles away. She dialed with shaking fingers. Hendricks Appraisals, this is Robert. I need someone to look at something. Today, if possible. I think, Lauren's voice cracked. I think I might have gold. Silence. Then, how much gold are we talking about? Lauren looked at the 23 birdhouses scattered across her yard like ordinary decorations. A lot, she whispered. Robert Hendricks arrived 90 minutes later in a black SUV, carrying a leather case that looked like it cost more than Lauren's car. He was 60-ish, silver-haired, wearing a suit despite the heat. He studied the foreclosure notice on her door without comment. Mrs. Reeves? You called about gold. Lauren led him to the backyard. She'd gathered 5 birdhouses on the patio table. I inherited these. I thought they were decorative. But the weight, and when I scraped the coating. Hendricks set down his case and pulled on white gloves. He lifted the Greek temple birdhouse. His eyebrows rose. He pulled out a small device, some kind of metal analyzer, and scraped a tiny section she'd already exposed. The device beeped. Hendricks stared at the readout. Where did you get these? My ex-husband's mother. She died last year. His siblings got the house, the art, everything valuable. I got these. How many are there? 23. Hendricks walked through her yard, examining each one. He tested 3 more. The device beeped each time. His professional composure started cracking. Mrs. Reeves, these aren't decorative items with gold leaf. They're solid gold, coated to look worthless. This one, he indicated the Greek temple. 18th century French design. The detail work, the craftsmanship. This is museum quality. And these inlays I thought were glass beads. He pulled out a jeweler's loop. They're uncut diamonds. Lauren sat down hard on the porch steps. That's not possible. It's extremely possible if you're wealthy, paranoid, and clever. Your mother-in-law had a fortune in plain sight. He pulled out a tablet. I need to photograph everything. Document the collection. Then we need to get these into a secure facility immediately. Wait. Lauren's mind spun. How much are we talking about? Hendricks met her eyes. I won't know exactly until we analyze each piece. But based on what I'm seeing, weight, purity, craftsmanship, historical value. He paused. Conservative estimate? $50 million. Possibly much more. The number didn't land. It was too big, too absurd. Lauren looked at the foreclosure notice. 14 days. $327. A fold-out couch in Cincinnati. $50 million. I need to sit down, she said. You are sitting down. I need to sit down more. If you're following Lauren's story, subscribe now, because what happens next will change everything. Hendricks spent 4 hours documenting the collection. He photographed, measured, tested. He handled each piece with reverence, making notes Lauren couldn't decipher. By sunset, he loaded all 23 birdhouses into his SUV, cushioned with foam and blankets. I'm taking these to our secure vault. You'll get a detailed inventory within 48 hours. Then we discuss next steps: auction, private sale, museum acquisition. Some of these pieces are culturally significant. What do I do until then? Hendricks handed her a business card and a check. This is a $50,000 advance against the collection's value. It's standard practice when we're securing assets of this magnitude. Cash it tomorrow. And Mrs. Reeves. He glanced at the foreclosure notice again. Pull a lawyer. You're going to need one. After he left, Lauren sat in her kitchen, holding the check. $50,000. Made out to her. Real. Sadie appeared in the doorway, holding her stuffed elephant. Mom? Are we still moving? Lauren looked at her daughter. At the foreclosure notice. At the check. No, baby. We're staying. The next morning, Lauren walked into First National Bank and deposited the check. The teller's eyes widened at the amount, but processed it without comment. Lauren then crossed the street to Franklin and Associates, the law firm whose billboard promised foreclosure defense. The receptionist squeezed her in. The attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Diane Franklin, listened to Lauren's explanation with growing interest. So you secured financing to cover the mortgage arrears? More than that. I could pay off the entire mortgage. But I don't want the bank to know yet. I want. Lauren hesitated. They've been awful, refusing to negotiate, threatening. I want to make them wait the full 14 days, then pay everything the day before they change the locks. Diane smiled. I like the way you think. Let me handle it. 3 days later, Hendricks called. Mrs. Reeves, we've completed the appraisal. Can you come to the office? His office overlooked the city, all glass and chrome. He spread a leather portfolio across the conference table. 23 pieces. Total weight in pure gold, 412 pounds. Current gold value alone, approximately $9.3 million. But we're not talking about scrap gold. These are art objects, historical pieces. 3 are confirmed 17th century French. 5 are 18th century. The rest are 19th century, possibly commissioned by European nobility. He turned pages, showing photographs and documentation. The Greek temple piece? Made from Marie Antoinette's garden, documented in palace records. Lost after the revolution. Worth 20 to 30 million at auction. This cathedral design? Created by a master goldsmith in Vienna, 1780. 10 to 15 million. The others range from 2 to 8 million each. Lauren's hands went numb. Total. Conservative auction estimate, accounting for historical significance and provenance, $156 million. The room tilted. Lauren gripped the table edge. I've contacted Sotheby's, Christie's, and Heritage. All 3 want exclusive rights to auction the collection. We're also fielding inquiries from private collectors and museums. The Louvre wants the Marie Antoinette piece. The Met is interested in several others. What do you recommend? Auction will bring maximum value. We stagger the sales, major pieces individually, smaller ones in curated lots. 2 to 3 years to complete. You'll need wealth management, tax attorneys, security. He paused. Your life is about to change dramatically, Mrs. Reeves. Lauren thought about Marcus and his sister, laughing in Vivian's living room. The broke ex-wife gets the lawn junk. Good, she said. The foreclosure deadline arrived on a Tuesday. Lauren waited until 4:47 p.m., 13 minutes before the bank closed, then walked into the branch manager's office with Diane Franklin and a cashier's check for $284,000. This covers the mortgage arrears, penalties, fees, and pays off the remaining principal, Diane said, sliding papers across the desk. Mrs. Reeves is exercising her right of redemption. The manager, a thin man who'd spoken to Lauren like she was dirt during her hardship application, stared at the check. Where did you? This is legal and verified, Diane said crisply. You'll have the title released within 10 business days, correct? He nodded, speechless. Outside, Lauren took her first full breath in months. The house was hers, truly hers. That evening, Marcus called. She hadn't heard from him since the divorce. He'd sided with his son, naturally, cut her off completely. Lauren, I heard a rumor. Someone said you're selling Mother's birdhouses for millions. That's absurd, obviously, but I wanted to check. It's not a rumor. Silence. The birdhouses were solid gold, Lauren continued. Your mother coded them to hide them. She left them to me specifically. The collection's valued at $156 million. I'm auctioning the first piece next month. More silence. Then, that's impossible. Mother would have told us. The will should be contested. You manipulated her, isolated her from family. Marcus, I visited your mother every week for 7 years while you stuck her in a nursing home and visited twice a year. She knew exactly what she was doing. And the will is ironclad, Diane checked. This isn't over. I'll sue. Lauren hung up. Then she blocked his number, and his sisters, and everyone else from that part of her life. Some bridges deserve to burn. 6 months later, Lauren stood in Sotheby's New York auction house, wearing a navy dress that actually fit and heels that didn't hurt. Sadie sat beside her in a velvet chair, wide-eyed at the chandeliers. Hendricks sat to her left, squeezing her hand as the auctioneer began. Lot 12, French Royal Garden ornament, circa 1785, commissioned for Marie Antoinette. The bidding started at $5 million. It climbed fast. 8, 12, 15. Phone bidders competed with collectors in the gallery. Museums made quiet, desperate bids. When the hammer fell at $28.4 million, Sadie gasped. Mom, That's just one birdhouse. I know, baby. We have 22 more. Over the following year, the collection brought in $164.7 million after auction fees. Lauren paid her taxes, hired a wealth management firm, and set up a trust for Sadie's education. Then she started making other plans. The first thing she did was buy Vivian's estate. Marcus had been desperate to sell, drowning in property taxes he couldn't afford. Lauren paid cash, then converted it into a shelter for women escaping domestic violence. Free housing, job training, legal support. She named it Vivian's house. The second thing was establish a foundation for single mothers facing foreclosure. Legal defense, emergency housing funds, financial counseling. She'd been 12 days from homelessness. She knew exactly how that felt. But the moment that mattered most came 9 months after the first auction, when Lauren walked into her old bank, not as a customer, but as a buyer. First National was struggling, bleeding customers. She purchased it through an LLC, restructured the leadership, and implemented a policy: no foreclosures without exhausting every alternative. The thin manager who treated her like dirt? She let him stay. She wanted him to see her in the owner's office every day, wanted him to understand exactly what he'd dismissed. One afternoon, Diane called with news. Marcus filed another lawsuit. He's claiming Vivian was mentally incompetent when she updated her will. Again, Lauren sighed. It was his fourth attempt. What do we need? Nothing. It'll be dismissed like the others. But Lauren, why not settle? Offer him something. Small, make him go away. Lauren thought about it. About the fold-out couch she'd almost ended up on. About Sadie asking if they were still moving, voice small and scared. About every person who'd dismissed her, pitted her, treated her like she was already defeated. No, she said. Let him keep filing. Let him waste his money on lawyers. I'm not giving him a cent. That night, in the house she'd saved, Lauren tucked Sadie into bed, a real bed, in her own room, with walls painted the color she'd chosen herself. Mom, Sadie's voice was sleepy. Are we rich now? Lauren thought about the foundation funding legal defense for 300 women. She thought about Vivian's house, sheltering 18 families. She thought about the bank, now helping people instead of crushing them. She thought about Vivian, brilliant and paranoid and trusting, who'd hidden a fortune for the one person who'd actually cared. Yeah, baby, Lauren said, kissing Sadie's forehead. We're rich, but not just because of the money, because we know what actually matters. She turned out the light and stood in the doorway, watching her daughter sleep. Her phone buzzed, another blocked number. Marcus or his lawyer, probably. She deleted it without looking. Outside, the moon rose over their oak trees. Inside, the house was warm and quiet, and theirs. Lauren walked to her office, a real office, with built-in bookshelves and a view of the garden, and sat down at her desk. She pulled up the foundation's quarterly report. 300 women helped. 63 foreclosures prevented. 14 women housed at Vivian's house who had gone on to stable employment. Lauren smiled and started typing. She had work to do. Not the desperate scramble of survival, but the purposeful work of building something that mattered. Just like Vivian. The birdhouses were sold now, scattered to museums and private collections around the world. But Lauren kept one, a simple wooden design, actually made of wood, worthless. It hung outside her office window, home to a family of wrens. A reminder that value isn't always obvious. That patience and love and quiet determination can change everything. That being overlooked isn't the same as being worthless. And that sometimes, the yard decorations everyone dismisses hold everything that matters. Lauren looked at the foreclosure notice, now framed on her wall, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. She'd been 12 days from losing everything. Now she made sure other women didn't have to feel that fear. Vivian would have approved.